Alright, so we added this little jittery guy last time. If I run it, he does a little motion that isn't too bad. He stops for a second and then he moves off the screen, hopefully, but actually he doesn't get to go off the screen and he hits you and you die. So what we want to do is these little characters that we have in the game, that the way I set it up previously, these guys are sort of moved around on the screen sort of randomly, or not randomly, but goal-oriented wise, and they would bump into each other, and to keep them from overlapping, they would sort of bounce off of each other. So there was a collision detection script that detected whenever they were touching and separated them. That collision detection script is causing problems with this smooth little animation we're doing. In reality, for this game, what we want is for these enemies to be able to pass through each other without damaging each other, and to move on and off of the screen without any issues. So the way we had it set up before is no longer what we want. We would like to be able to just have these guys go wherever we want them to go, and so go on the screen, off the screen, through each other. They shouldn't bump into things. So that's going to be in the collision detection script. So to improve that little bump you see, dunk, we're going to rewrite that. That is in main. So over here in the game scripts, I'm going to go to main. There's a collision resolution thing going on here. And there's a lot of stuff. I'm going to get rid of the commented bit. I don't really need that. This script is just very rudimentary. It's very inefficient too. We're going to have to improve that later. Right now it's not very good, but it's fine for how few things we have on the screen. But this is the collision detection script that I have written so far. There it is. This section. So for all the objects, compare them. As long as they're not the same object, make sure they don't touch each other and separate them if they do. But we need to. It has special rules for if the thing is a weapon, if you're shooting something, or the enemy's shooting you. So what we're going to say is, so if distance to each other is less than 52, if they're not the shots, then they get pushed away and they do damage to each other. Honestly, I think this whole thing can go. So we'll come back to the collision detection script later. But I don't think any... Oh, well, these guys will now collide into each other and overlap. But like I said, from here on out, we're going to script these guys to do exactly what we want, to be exactly what we want. They're not going to have their own self-guidance thing. They're going to follow a pattern, and we don't have to worry about them bumping into each other. But I'm going to try to refresh this. Notice no collision, no problem. And then this guy still has a problem going off the screen, but he doesn't kill you anymore. So yeah, that's pretty good. Let's make sure now that he can go off the screen. I believe that is in the game object class. So the game object class, notice all the enemies extend. The first enemy extends that class, so it's a subclass of game object, and all the other enemies are subclasses of that. So all the enemies are actually all game objects as well. So deep down at their nature as game objects, they each have a script somewhere, I think, somewhere, which prevents them from going off the screen. And I appear not to be right about this. You know what? These things contain components, these objects, and every game object contains a component called the body, as well as something called the renderer, which is known as its rend in this model. And so I think it's in the body, actually. So I'm going to go to the component the body of the game object has a script, wall bounce. We do not need this, so I am going to. Your player might want that, but I'm just gonna do this. Just comment out what wall bounce does, save it, refresh. It's pretty good. Let's see if it goes off the screen. Yay. Okay, so that's pretty good. The more I think about it, I don't want to shut wall bounce off of everything, or at least I want it for the player. So I'm going to copy this, and when I define the player object, the player, I'm going to put this into his body. So the player's body will have a special wall bounce function that is not empty. So I'm just going to say, I'll just do it down here. In the player class, this body wall bounce, is a function, and there she blows. So if I save that, I can refresh. Everything's good. My player cannot go off the screen, but this guy can. All the enemies now can. They don't bump into me. Everything's good. There we go. So now we can let them go or roam freely.